The Paris Orphan finds the Manson family. Yep. Have you seen Gypsy's new book? It's not new. It's been out since like 2008. Yeah, and pictures of her at the ranch. That's what basically, she got that taken for her book. There's all kinds of things in it. Her and her ex. Her ex was actually in the Manson family, and there she was with them, and he had a wanted poster because he escaped from LA County Jail because they got him hacksaw blades, and that's the reason that Sandra Good can't visit Charles Manson or couldn't visit any of the people in the Manson family anymore, is because she helped with the escape. And this is Gypsy here with Susan and Mary Brunner, because they all spent time together, and then there's all the crimes that they committed, and there's Manson and her ex back when they finally met. The Manson family meets in Folsom, and they get in a fight, and this dude gets shot in the stomach, and it wasn't Charles Manson. She goes on to talk about her early bringing ups, and then, we all remember, the Manson family sings the songs of the Lord. From the songs of Marty Cooper to singing the songs of Charles Manson, she's back. Charity Shane, now singing the songs of the Lord. Act 1, The Paris Orphan. Act 2, Charity Shane. Act 3, Charles Manson introduced all these young kids to acid and brainwashes them.
Well, Ned, I don't even with drugs, man.
Do you think, well, maybe in here it's a little more difficult.
No, it ain't as difficult as you think. I smoke a little grass.
LSD,
and I take a little,
grass,
no, a little
mescaline,
LSD.
speed, all that stuff.
No. I smoke a little grass. I've taken a lot of peyote.
Yeah. Acid?
No, acid, yeah, a bit of acid. But I never touched acid till 67.
Yeah.
Now, the people that I was with that you said I turned on to acid,
I didn't say that.
they turned me on to acid.
Okay.
In other words, that was a new trip to me, and it wasn't all that big a trip to me, and I didn't really care for it, and I don't with speed at all, and I've never had a needle in my arm except for a blood test.
Welcome back. I'm Michael. I'm a writer, pretending to be an author. Unlike Gypsy, who is an author. But pretty much we're both in the same boat. Because sometimes when you write a book, like Gypsy did, but you'll never get it, and it's not called The Paris Orphan, although that would be a good name for it, and she doesn't really have the Manson family sings the songs of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but they should, man. They should have Bruce and Tex and Gypsy, and they could have had Susan, and when she was still alive, they could have all sang. Half the Manson family could have been singing on that record. But Gypsy does have a book. We'll look at this thing a little closer so you can see it on what it is. But when you write a book, sometimes you'll be able to sell the book. And when you do sell the book, say like Paramount will buy it from you. They'll say, hey, yeah, we'll buy it. And they do. And when they buy it, they just shelf it. It's like my book. Gypsy has a book, but where is it? It's on their shelf. Because she signed a contract and like, yeah, buy my book. And that's why you've been seeing Gypsy on these television shows for the last 20 years, basically, because she did it in 2008. When did she do it? She did it on May the 1st, in 2008. So ever since then, Gypsy's pretty much been on contract by Paramount. So it's funny when these people like Tweaker Jones comes on and says, yeah, we got Gypsy on. No, it's the other way around. They already had Gypsy under contract. She's already a Manson family member. She's the one they care about the most anyway. And little Tweaker Jones was just a side note in the story. That's how all this works. It's all a game that they play with us. That's why I don't believe any of it. And Gypsy actually should come out with a Christian record, because people would actually buy that thing. I would buy it. Wouldn't you buy it? Sure, everybody would buy it. Gypsy, come on. I hope she's not watching this. If she is, I hope I get all this stuff right. Anyway, she should have a book, and all this stuff should be in it. She would probably leave a lot of stuff out of her book anyway, because Manson always falls down to Manson is the blame. And immediately from the start, we all think that Charlie Manson was the guy that got them all introduced to this acid stuff, when actually it was the other way around. And if they put it all in a real book, you'd be able to see that Bobby Beausoleil was probably the acid king of the whole Manson family. Gypsy always took good photos, even if she was in prison. Here it looks like the Manson family are having a great old time in prison, actually. I also have my own pictures of them. There's Kenneth Como, the husband of Catherine Scher, both Manson family members. And I drew them to put in illustrations for my book, and there they are, partners in crime. There's Kenneth down there, and then there's Gypsy up there along with Mary Brunner and Chuck Lovett. And down here we got Denis Rice, Lawrence Bailey, and Kenneth Como. Did I happen to mention that I was also pen pals with Gypsy's ex-husband? Yep, I was. I was pen pals with Gypsy's ex-husband, Kenneth Como, and I'm going to tell you what, the guy did not like the Manson family well at all. He escaped. And the Manson family is the one that came to his rescue with the hacksaw blades and the escape car that eventually crashed, and was the reason that Sandra Good probably couldn't visit anybody in the state of California prison system anymore. This is him, Kenneth Como. He has a funny story. I think he has a bunch of stories. These Manson family members, they have a ton of stories. Nobody tells them though, because nobody wants to learn about them. All they want to learn is the things that are in the books. And the books don't tell everything. The paper trails tell everything. Yeah, they tell a lot. These two, they committed a lot of crimes. And Gypsy wants to blame, I'll bet, when she get that Paramount book contract, now they can just pretty much parrot everything that they want Gypsy to say, because she's under contract. They're going to pay her for it. They're going to put her on TV for it. It's a no-win. She'll say whatever they want. So anything she ever says is compromised, if you ask me, because she herself has committed so many crimes. We'll get into that later. This video, I started looking into Gypsy, and I thought, all this stuff just fell out on me, It was like, wow, there's a whole bunch involved with Gypsy. Gypsy was a cult of her own. Not just that one incident in Hawthorne. No, it was way more than that. So we're going to get into a little bit of it here today, and the interesting story about Kenneth Como. I don't know how to tell that. It's actually a quite interesting story because he sued the state of California for $6,000. $6,000. And he was claiming that they did so many probes up his butt with x-ray machines searching for contraband, because he escaped. And then he claimed it was because he was connected to the Manson family. That's why I hated him so much, because they kept probing him, looking for more hacksaw blades, I guess. And he claimed it was causing him damage because they weren't putting a lead shield around, like just make an opening for the hole there and just zap him right up the hole. Nope, they were just, he said they were using people that were not qualified and all those things. And he eventually won, settled it out of court because they didn't want to take it to court. It just was going to become too complicated for both sides, because probably the prison system knew they had the guys with the zapper just zap him again. And Como, his lawyers probably knew that. So they settled sent him a check for $6,000, and he eventually died of a kind of a bone cancer, which could have been brought on from being zapped up the hole too much. Who knows? Who knows? We'll never know any of these things. They just bury these stories. What do? We dig them back up. Like I've already mentioned to you, these guys were all partners in one crime. Kenneth, Lawrence Bailey, and Denis Rice. And we have Chuck Lovett, Catherine Scher, and Mary Brunner. Okay, while these guys are all in custody then, Como made a statement in court, I think it was in front of a judge, maybe it's just in front of the media, that at this given moment, he was prepared to marry either Catherine Scher or, didn't matter, Mary Brunner. At this very moment, he'd marry either one of them. And then when you know it, he's married to Gypsy. That's how crazy this stuff is. It's nuts. It's a soap opera. It's all a big soap opera. Yeah, I've heard people say that people like Kenneth Como, they weren't originals to the Manson family. They were Johnny-come-latelys. You know, they never met Charlie Manson. I've even heard them say that in documentaries. Yeah, it's fair to say people like Denis Rice, Kenneth Como, they were Johnny-come-latelys. Doesn't mean that they didn't commit some of the more serious crimes for the Manson family. It's just that they never were indoctrinated into the family by Charlie himself. It's like one of them crime bosses, you know, where you can't really, nobody gets to see Charlie. Just work on Charlie's orders. And Gypsy said that Charlie told her that her orders are to come from Kenneth Como. That's what Gypsy says later. That's what Gypsy would say in her book. If she wrote a book, that's what she would say. But that's not true. Gypsy was recruiting people like Kenneth Como with like, hey, Kenneth, come to the Manson family. And Kenneth's like, hey, I'm coming to the Manson family. That's how it happened. And they were in the same jail. Not at the same time, of course. Manson was already in prison by this point. But they were in the same jail in Los Angeles that Manson was in. And they climbed down those 14 with a bed sheet, a bunch of them tied together. And at the bottom, there was Sandra Good waiting with the getaway car to take off. And then they crashed in Hollywood, left the car. They crashed everything. They crashed the Twinkies truck. They crashed the getaway car. Now they're hiding in Hollywood. And police did a search of the area and made these wanted posters. And they found them. They found them. They always find them. So yeah, we come to that time in Folsom now where Charlie Manson's there, Kenneth Como's there, and they're in close proximity to each other. So what happened? What do you think happened? A fight broke out. And Como eventually got, Manson don't fight alone, and he don't fight clean, and he had help. And we'll look at that a little bit, because there was plenty of articles written about it. We'll look at one of them. And Como, he eventually got shot in the stomach with a beanbag from one of the guards. Because back in the day, they were wild with those beanbags, just like they were with those X-ray machines. So now we're in Folsom, and Gypsy's old man now meets up with the mob boss. May the 13th, 1975, Folsom, California. Shotgun shells were fired today to break up a fight between Charles Manson, the convicted mass murderer. Man, they just love saying that. and 2 other inmates in the exercise yard at Folsom State Prison. Mr. Manson, 40 years old, was not injured, but Kenneth Como, who has links to the girls of the so-called Manson family. Wait a minute, doesn't Manson have links to him too? Anyway, Associate Warden Huel Morphus said that Mr. Como attacked Mr. Manson as he entered the exercise yard. And Bobby Davis, who was on death row at San Quentin with Mr. Manson, jumped into the fray before the shots were fired by the guards. So the guy they mentioned in this article that jumped in with Manson, Bobby Davis. He might not sound familiar to most people, but here in this city here, right here where I live, man, that guy he's well known. And not because he's some star of some sorts, but he is kind of a star of some sorts because he's the dude, he caused one of the greatest incidents in the history of the CHP. They walked up and he opened fire and he killed 4 of them right here in this city. And he was the one that was helping Manson. And where I said the irony of Johnny Cash jumps into the story, Bobby Davis later sued the state of California for the song that had to do with the song of Johnny Cash. And he was claiming that it was keeping him locked up in solitary confinement for all his life. So that was who Bobby Davis was. And Bobby Davis was a big dude too. So Manson didn't pick any little friends to fight with. So, the Paris Orphan. That's a nice picture that she took over in Chatsworth. It's not actually at Spawn Ranch, but it's really, really close. Bet you they told her that was for the back of the book. It actually would make a nice picture for the back of the book. And this is the contract. It comes directly from the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. You know we can trust everything out of that place. And it is a book with all the book numbers. And the most important part of the book itself is who this book is owned by. Because you'll never get Catherine Sher to talk to you because they pretty much don't just own the book. You get it. That's why you come to the Back Porch Tape, man. Thanks for watching. Peace.